Tensions are rising again in the Middle East. The U.S. responded to Iran's ceasefire violations with strikes against Iranian targets, with last night's attack being the largest since the Memorandum of Understanding was signed. The retaliation was in response to Iran's attacks in the Strait of Hormuz, as well as those targeting U.S. assets in Kuwait and Bahrain. Now, an Iranian state media outlet linked to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps says that Iran has, quote, no choice, get this, but to develop a nuclear bomb to achieve peace and calm. The U.S. posture in the region remains unchanged as tensions, we say they rise, but really they're just staying tense. Joining us now for tonight's big close-up, a hero of mine, the acting Secretary of the Navy, Secretary Hung Cao. Thank you so much for joining us.
So much, Joey.
Yes, sir. Listen, I take one issue. I understand when you're a four-flag officer, you wear the lapel, but you can still put that EOD badge up there. I'm just saying, trust me, as a guy who has a couple of flags. In all seriousness, though, you're taking over as the Secretary of the Navy really being the preeminent asset in the region right now when we look over in the Middle East in ways that we haven't really thought about it before. I mean, we fought 20 years of war, and the Navy was very involved. But it wasn't always the boats that we were thinking about. Now that's been the top line. You know, we're in littoral warfare, brown water warfare, using ships in ways that maybe we haven't in the last couple of decades. Where is the Navy when it comes to fighting a war like this? I
mean, we're always ready. We're always on deployment all the time. But right now we need 350 ships. And that's exactly why the president is pushing for this $1.5 trillion budget so we can build the ships we need. Because ships like the USS, Gerald Ford and the entire strike group was extended till 11 months on deployment because we didn't have enough ships to backfill them. And that's why we need these ships out there. But I tell you what, the strength of our Navy and Marine Corps is the sailors and Marines that are manning our ships and bases, and they're getting things done.
You don't just have to say sailors and Marines because you're Secretary of the Navy. You've got a son that's a Marine as well, so congratulations on that.
We love that. Secretary, I know you don't want to get ahead of the Commander-in-Chief and the Secretary of War here, but there are a lot of Americans who watch the big weekend show, and every weekend we say tensions are rising, now there's a memorandum, now there's a ceasefire, maybe it's not a ceasefire, we read some truth socials from the president, and there are some Americans who are a little confused as to where we are now. They don't know if their gas prices are going to go up or go down. What can you say to the American people who are watching? They believe in the president, but they're sometimes a little confused at all the steps and all the maneuvering going on.
Well, the enemy has a vote, but here's the thing: the president's always 5 steps ahead of him, and we can be the best friends in the world or the worst enemy. And look what's happening down in Venezuela. We're bringing aid and support to the people of Venezuela, and we're patrolling the seas all around the world, including South China Sea, as well as in Europe, the Mediterranean, the Gulf. We're there. We're there to do whatever the president needs to do.
I love that. We know that that's going to be the case.
Secretary Cao, pleasure to have you with us. Over the course of the conflict, U.S. assets in the region have taken extensive hits. There's this report from the Wall Street Journal that an attack on a U.S. Navy base in Bahrain did extensive damage, and the U.S. is considering how to shift and adjust to deal with that. What message do you want to send in the way you adjust? What do you make of that report, and how do we signal we are still strong and we are defending ourselves properly here?
Well, I think we are still very strong. We have an entire fleet out there right now, and we can work from anywhere. We're the United States Navy. We can work from ships, we can work from ground, we can work from the air. We show that in Epic Fury, where we combine our Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, Army, as well as cyber in there to do the operations. But again, my job is to make sure we have the ships and aircrafts we need, and submarines too. Don't forget, there's a submarine out there, a 32-year-old submarine, USS Charlotte, that was out there for the longest time, and they didn't know where it was, and they were launching missiles from right on the coastline.
Amazing.
Secretary Cao, Kevin Cork, great to see you. I feel like I know you. I've seen signs with your name all up and down the Georgetown Pike. So it's an honor, obviously, to talk to you. And as someone who's been to Vietnam many, many times, I can't wait to get your thoughts on what that was like for you. But let me begin with this. Southern Command deploying rescue teams to Venezuela to help with the devastation following the massive earthquakes that have been happening there, a couple of them actually. Believe it or not, we got word today that one of our teams actually recovered an infant from the wreckage. Southern Command still working to provide aid anywhere it can. Tell us about what's happening there and what we can do to help those people.
Again, one of those things that we do in the United States Navy Marine Corps is humanitarian assistance and disaster relief.
Yeah.
We can launch from any platform, the amphibious ships. I did this in 2005 in Pakistan during the earthquake there, and it's heartbreaking, but to be able to bring aid so quickly, our V-22s are flying in there with all the support and all the equipment they need, as well as food and medical care. And if they have to, they bring them back to the ships where we have doctors standing by to give people, surgical care if they need it.
Yeah, and obviously our thoughts are with the people there. They've been suffering, and obviously the Trump administration has been very aggressive in trying to do all we can to help. Yeah. Joey.
Mr. Secretary, so obviously today's theme at the Great American Fair, which is this amazing expo behind us, is Military and Veterans Appreciation Day. We're constantly reminded that freedom simply isn't free. There's a price to be paid. When we talk about freedom, some people are born with it here in this country. Some people have to go across oceans to find it. Your family fled from Vietnam, obviously, as the communists took over after the war. And then you recently, as the Secretary of the Navy of this same country, returned or visited Vietnam, met with the Communist Party there. I would love to know what I can put words in your mouth because to me it's poetic, but I would love to know what your thoughts are there, especially when you have a country like Venezuela and Iran that, maybe going through a change and, have hope for a free country one day. For someone with your lineage as an American, but also as, the son of refugees.
No, again, it's very surreal. I mean, I was facing my father's enemies, and, it's time to heal. Wow. It was 51 years ago, and it's time for us to move forward. And the only way to move forward is to heal the wounds of the past and work together for maritime domain awareness, because we need the Vietnamese in order to help us with the South China Sea, or they call it the East Sea, to keep from the Chinese aggression against their fishermen, against their shipping, and our shipping as well. We're both maritime nations that depend on clear lanes of communication.
So one of the priorities of the Marine Corps, which I was told is maybe the 5th priority of the Navy, and those, because we're smaller, is to have what we call 3 amphibious ready groups abroad. So kind of what, just to make it simple for the people at home, kind of what we're doing in the Strait of Hormuz, the ability to do that in 3 places at once. The biggest hang-up there is the amount of ships. You sat down and said we need, I think it was 130 ships. So can we build all those here, or do we need to work with partners abroad that maybe can do it more efficiently or are already doing it? Do you feel like there's going to be hurdles in that? How do you feel like we get there to have those ships?
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, right now we're held with two manufacturers in the United States that are building ships, and so what the president wants to do is look at other builders. We're not building foreign ships. What we're doing is having them invest in the United States. I mean, Toyotas and Nissans are made here in the United States, so why can't they bring that capability over here? And maybe some of their processes are more efficient than ours also. But we're going to create 540,000 jobs when they do that.
Oh, wow.
Can I hop in here real quick and just ask, what's the #1 goal on your plate? Obviously, there are short-term goals when you're acting, but there are also long-term goals that you want to see happen even beyond your service. What does that look like?
Well, first of all, my #1 priority is to take care of our sailors and Marines. Yeah. They'll do anything. Here's the thing. You give them a K-bar or Marlin Spike, they'll kill the enemy, right? Yeah. And the second thing is to build ships. We need 350 ships in order to maintain our fleet and be at the ready. And the third one is to defend our homeland. I will not cede this homeland. I know what it's like to wake up without a flag to stand under or a country to call my own. And I'll be damned if that happens to my children or your children.
Wow. Outstanding.
Secretary Cao, I wanted to ask you about another full circle moment you had almost in the same month as going to Vietnam, which is watching your son graduate at the U.S. Naval Academy. What about those two things happening back to back, and one pretty close to Father's Day as well?
I know.
Amazing.
30 years after I graduated, he graduated and went on the same stage, and I got to sign his commission. So, just let you know, on the side, I wrote my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased.
Beautiful.
And to be able to commission him and also to, speak at his graduation was something I'd never, ever dreamed of. And it's amazing. And I brought him to Vietnam also as part of the group with a lot of the second lieutenants as the next generation. I was able to talk to the president of Vietnam saying, we need to leave the past in the past. Let's move forward. And he's the next generation that will be able to mend the fences for us.
Real quick, I got to ask you this. You're an EOD tech, bomb tech. You're also the father of a Marine. I feel like Marine EOD techs must have a very special place in your heart. We're getting into the water. We're learning to go dive and do some of that. I have to imagine that's going to be a good priority for you.
It's going to be great.
All right, I appreciate that.
Love that.
All right, listen, that's Acting Secretary Hung Cao. Thank you so much for joining us. It's an honor to sit beside you. You're an inspiration to me. Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.